Howdy folks, Jamboree here. In this episode of Puppet Panic I'm going to be talking about Guillermo Del Toro's cult Hellboy movies. In 1944, the evil Rasputin built a machine to release the gods of chaos, but it got blown up by a grenade, and Rasputin was dragged into a portal. At the same time, the machine ended up creating a little devil creature, who was adopted by a kind professor and named Hellboy. 60 years later, FBI agent John Myers has been transferred to the Bureau of Paranormal Research and Defense, where he meets a psychic amphibious humanoid called Abe, a woman with fire powers called Liz, and the renowned Hellboy. Meanwhile, Rasputin's been brought back to Earth by his disciples. He resurrects the legendary Samael, who has the ability to reincarnate and split its essence. So Hellboy has to wipe out every Samael clone before they begin overpopulating the world. Rasputin then reveals that he needs Hellboy's giant arm to unlock the portal again. Del Toro's Hellboy walks a fine line between being dark and brooding, yet also quirky and whimsical. It's all very strange, but somehow works. Most of the movie's technology is distinctly vintage or ancient as well, which is quite refreshing when most Cape Crusader films are all about sleek futuristic gadgets and suits. Throw in some Lovecraftian world building and historical mythology, what we end up with is this unique steampunk superhero film that has its own flavour full of texture.
Perfect job for these babies. Made them myself. Holy water, clove leaves, silver shavings, white oak. The wakes.
I appreciate that the film only explains details that are relevant to the story, while also leaving some intrigue for the audience. We know that we're only getting a tiny bite of what this universe offers, which is something that I really love, because it makes us speculate about what other monsters and secrets exist in Hellboy's world. Not every single thing needs to be explained in a fantasy film, because a little enigmatic mystery can go a long way for a movie's appeal. Though, let's be fair, most of the fandom around Del Toro's Hellboy comes down to everyone's love for Ron Perlman's performance as HB himself. Perlman's face structure and body build are a perfect base for Hellboy's appearance, and he owns the heavy makeup that he has to wear. He lives and breathes it. Perlman plays the role like a petulant teenager going through an array of moods and emotions he struggles to understand or express, which totally fits a coming-of-age film like Hellboy.
Finally got them implants, huh?
It'll fill in.
Who's the squirt?
Agent Myers is your new liaison.
I don't want him.
But Ron is also so good at selling Big Red's funny zingers and snappy one-liners, all thanks to how he delivers his dialogue with this grizzled dryness.
It's for you! You shouldn't hurt people!
Throughout the movie, we get to see how each superhero feels about being born different. Abe seems perfectly content being a book-read, psychometric fishman in a human's world. It's actually adorable how much he owns who he is.
Hey, fish stick. Don't touch anything.
I need to touch it to see.
See what?
Past, future. Whatever this object holds.
But HB and Elizabeth are very self-conscious of what makes them different. From Liz's fire powers that she's still learning to control, to Hellboy's Red Devil-like appearance. However, Abe is happy to remind his friends that being an outcast doesn't mean that you're completely alone.
If there's trouble, all us freaks have is each other.
Every social reject has a fellow community that they can turn to, which is a reassuring feeling when you think about it. Hellboy's arc throughout the film is to come to terms with who he is. He has to ask himself if he's really the monster that humans think he is, or a hero that happens to look like the devil, and the finale gives him that choice.
I lived long enough to know. Not a tear will be shed for this world.
You have a choice. Your father gave you that.
No, you don't.
While Liz feels like she's lost her ability to control her flames, when really, Rasputin triggered them in her sleep. She has to find it in herself to regain agency of her superpower again, something that's tested when Hellboy is in a losing fight and only a supernatural force can save him. Liz learns that her fire powers can make her a great hero despite the dangers that they come with. In an attempt to give the audience a surrogate character, John has been introduced into the mix, someone for the viewers to relate to as an outsider to all of this paranormal business. While John performs his role just fine, he's also duller than paint drying. He mainly just acts constantly bewildered, pulling gormless faces as weird things happen around him. Sure, he's a nice guy who wants to connect with these outcasts, but he's just not as fun or intriguing as the supernatural characters around him.
He doesn't want me with him. I know that much. You're doing fine.
No, I'm not. Look, he respects Clay, not me. I'm really sorry, okay?
The film also brings a love triangle to the table, one between Hellboy, Liz, and John. This is perhaps my least favourite aspect of the film. I didn't root for either potential couple, because John and Liz share zero chemistry thanks to John's boring personality, while Hellboy has unhealthy jealousy issues that he never gets over, which will make him a bad partner for Liz.
Hey, we all have a side that we try to hide.
By the finale, Liz ends up with Hellboy, which I wasn't a fan of because HB never outgrew his envy complex. Sure, HB found confidence in himself by this point, but the fact that he snogs Liz right in front of John to assert dominance really shows that his jealousy issues haven't gone away. And that is not a good start to any relationship. Now, what's a superhero movie without villains for our heroes to go up against? If I'm honest, I actually forgot who the villains were in this film since I last watched it. On the one hand, I can see why I don't remember Rasputin. Sure, he's an intimidating presence, but when you boil him down, he's just your typical Hollywood baddie out to destroy the world. And his partner Ilsa just tags along as a loyal girlfriend. However, I'm surprised that I forgot the side villain Cronin. This guy is more than a cool badass assassin hiding behind a mask. He's a genuinely creepy horror character. Someone who obsessed over surgically altering his body so much that he's now become this walking corpse filled with dust, only kept alive through clockwork mechanics. I actually found he seems to be way more fun than Rasputin's, because there's something deeper to his character. A masochistic man who hated his body so much that he mutilated it into a shell of his former self, and now he serves as the minion for a greater power's cause, making him not much different to our heroes. So what about the film's puppetry? Yes, this superhero film actually features puppets. First we have the Samael clones. CGI was mainly used for this creature's effects, but sometimes Samael is performed by stunt actors wearing animatronic masks. It's a really cool practical effect that helps the fights between Hellboy and these monsters look more physically tangible. I love the animatronic heads, the way the tentacles wriggle on their own, the realistic drool dripping from its mouth, and the intense size of its jaws. It's so awesome! The other puppet in the film is an undead corpse called Ivan. This animatronic looks quite goofy for a zombie, but it really works in context, because Ivan is meant to be more quirky than creepy, and he shares this funny double act with Hellboy.
How you doing up there, Ivan?
To conclude, Hellboy is a fun steampunk comic book movie with awesome practical effects, fascinating world building, and a sincere sympathy for outcasts. Sure, the love triangle is bloody silly, and John Myers is one of the dullest audience surrogates ever, but this is still a hell of a unique superhero film. A long time ago, humans and magical creatures were at constant war, so a goblin blacksmith offered to build an army of golden mechanical soldiers for the King of Elves, which could be controlled with a royal crown, but this army ended up devastating humanity. To make up for this, the Elf King settled a truce with the humans, and divided the crown into 3 pieces. This angered the elf prince, Nuada, who left in exile. Cut to present day, Prince Nuada is trying to collect every piece of the crown, so that he can bring back the Golden Army, and destroy humanity. Nuada's sister, Princess Nuala, refuses to help her twin sibling, and joins forces with the Bureau for Paranormal Research and Defense. Can our heroes stop this prince from restoring the legendary Golden Army? This film is a great example of how sometimes a sequel can be superior to its original. So many things are done far much better in this film compared to the first movie, all while staying true to the spirit of what came before it. The movie shifts away from historical mythology and into the realm of fairy tales, which means that we get a Hellboy movie that intensifies its quirky whimsiness over its dark broodiness. As someone who preferred the weirder side of Hellboy, I was completely happy with the more fantastical and strange tone. At the same time, the movie still keeps the cool steampunk aesthetic, without ever ruining the fairy tale world building. Del Toro doesn't just force a visual style he wants, but rather gives these royal elves an industrial palace below New York City, a place that serves as a sad reminder of how humanity's excessiveness has driven a beautiful ancient race underground. There's something inherently powerful about the very image of elves being contrasted against the backdrop of our modern society, especially when humankind has completely forgotten about elves, seeing them more as folklore than part of factual history. Hellboy 2 also explores the concept of bureaucracy versus humanity. The film takes the very idea of these supernatural heroes working for the FBI, and highlights how problematic it is behind all the professional formalities. This comes to the surface when Hellboy outs the existence of supernatural heroes. On the one hand, this is a great middle finger to the FBI, who have trapped our characters in isolation from the world. I mean, watching Hellboy laugh his arse off while his annoying boss loses all of his dignity is quite satisfying.
You've murdered me. You have murdered me. You have ridiculed me. And you...
On the other hand, HB, Liz and Abe's freedom seems to come at a price, because even once they become celebrities, it's clear that not every human trusts or respects them. Hellboy might have found confidence in his physical appearance in the last film, and is now eager to be a guardian for good, but the society he defends is yet to welcome him with open arms. We can't help but feel sorry for this ironic tragedy that our heroes suffer through. These three heroes want to use their powers to help people, but those same people see them more as monsters than protectors. Johann's introduction also ties into this ever-growing frustration with bureaucratic oppression. He represents everything that Hellboy isn't, because he's organised, bites the bugs, and uses his head before he's brawn. Unlike John Myers, Johann fits into the movie's team of misfits perfectly, because he's just as eccentric and strange as all the other superheroes. Plus his steampunk design is right at home with the movie's aesthetic. Not to mention his comedic rivalry with Hellboy is one of the most entertaining parts of the film, because their clashes always lead to hilarious slapstick or funny arguments. Although, Johann isn't some one-dimensional bootlicker, because we come to learn that he has his own trauma, and he begins to realise that his loyalty to the Bureau has taken away his humanity. So, by the finale, he develops an unlikely camaraderie with our outcast heroes, and even breaks the rules in favour of doing the right thing, proving that there's a free spirit with a big heart under that constrained suit of his. There are two major romances in this film, HB and Liz, plus Abe and Nuala. HB and Liz's relationship is very tense lately because they're having to share Hellboy's prison-like room in the Bureau, and HB refuses to clean up after himself. Not to mention Liz has found out that she's pregnant and is struggling to tell HB. Now yes, HB and Liz's domestic arguments can be quite frustrating, and the whole secret pregnancy thing can be a little soap opera-y at times. But once HB's life is in danger, the couple are brought closer by Hellboy's life dangling on the edge, and both heroes realise how much they mean to each other. I also find it sweet how the film ends with Hellboy being very happy about becoming a dad, and showing an open willingness to live somewhere better for his new family's sake.
You and me, let's find a place in the country. Clean air, green hills, a yard with lots of room to grow in. It'll be great for the baby.
Then we have Abe and Nuala. I won't lie, these two are very cute together. I can also see why they'd be attracted to each other. They're both brave and intelligent people who love books and see the beauty in one another.
I borrowed this book. I hope you don't mind.
No, please. This is your home now. You are safe here.
However, I'm on the fence about Abe's decision in the finale. You see, the prince says that he'll free his sister if Abe brings him the crown. Then later, Abe gives the crown to the prince to save the princess's life, only for the prince to command his army to kill our heroes. Now yes, Abe is a sweet innocent fish man with idealistic worldviews, so of course he'd trust the prince's word, but the fact that he was willing to risk the safety of humankind to save a pretty elf lady he just met yesterday isn't exactly a good look on him. If I'm honest, my favourite scene in these romantic subplots doesn't even involve the couples, but Abe and Hellboy. There's this really adorable moment where Abe and HB share drinks together, sing love songs with one another, and express their feelings for their special ladies. It's an endearing moment of sensitive male bonding. I wish more superhero films showed this kind of positive masculinity. Although you could argue that our heroes have more important matters at hand in this scene, so what about our villain? Well, Prince Nuada holds a violent grudge against humans. While his hatred of humanity is kind of warranted, because of how they've treated elves and other mythical creatures, the way he decides to change things is cruel and barbaric. However, he's not completely evil because he does genuinely care about other forgotten fantastical creatures, and expresses genuine grief when one of his monster friends is killed. The fact that he shares pain with his twin sister also increases stakes for the story, because Hellboy and his friends can't simply kill Nuada, as that would also mean killing the princess, which would break Abe's heart. It's this potential risk to the princess's life that makes the fights with Nuada really tense, but Nuada's character also ties quite neatly into Hellboy's struggling relationship with humanity. Again, there's some truth to Nuada's opinions on humans, and you can tell that Hellboy kind of relates to Nuada's feelings, but HB knows deep down that he would never stoop to Nuada's level.
The humans, They will tire of you. They have already turned against you. Leave them. Is it them or us?
I also have to say that this film was a great showcase for actor Doug Jones. Doug plays Abe Sapien in these movies, but Hellboy 2 also casts him as a few other fantastical makeup-heavy characters. Doug is a truly amazing actor, someone who can contort his body and change his voice in many unique ways. He especially has a gift for bringing non-human characters to life. So it's wonderful that Del Toro has given him so many roles for Hellboy 2, because it was about time that the movie showed off Doug's range, talents and skills.
Red, we have company.
No me adago import.
So child, make the choice.
This film has even more puppetry than the first movie. First, there's Wink, one of the biggest puppets I've ever seen in a movie. This beast of a suit with an animatronic head isn't just impressively huge, he also has this rubbery mouth that helps him to be remarkably expressive for a robotics effect.
Give it up, pal. Show.
There's also a cat-eating monster disguised as an old lady. Her puppet is so grotesquely detailed and flexibly animated that you could mistake it for being CGI. The whole troll market scene is also packed with puppets. You'll spot one around every corner. I really respect Del Toro for letting animatronics populate this town, when he could have easily composited a bunch of CGI monsters into the background instead. It's a bold move that really pays off. Lastly, we have Johan, the most unusual animatronic puppet, because his design is so strange. Now, sure, his body actor is doing a lot of the work, but that in itself is puppetry, because the performer is having to bring ectoplasmic gas to life in a steampunk suit. Plus, if you look carefully, you'll notice that Johan has an insectoid mouth that moves while he talks. It's so cool and strange. To conclude, Hellboy 2 takes what the first film established and pushes its imagination even further to create a truly entertaining action fantasy comedy. It's so good that it makes me wish that Del Toro got to make a third film, because there was so much potential for what could have come next. Right, so that's everything I think about Del Toro's Hellboy movies. What do you think of these films? Let everyone know in the comments section below, and don't forget to click that like button. I've been Jamboriki, and if you enjoyed this video, then please consider subscribing to my channel. Cheerio, folks!
I could just eat you alive.
Oh, that's sweet, right?
Muppets Haunted Mansion.